Hey there, hope you're doing well. I'm glad to meet you again. I'm equally doing fine, and it's always an honor and pleasure to meet you on this platform. Thank you for finding time to watch this video, and I hope it touches your life positively in one way or the other as far as your nutrient intake is concerned. Today's topic is about dietary management of iron deficiency anemia. We are going to look at a very important nutrient called iron and its importance in the body and what will happen in case of deficiency and how we can manage it through diet. Welcome. Iron is an important mineral that is found naturally in foods. It can also be added into food during processing, what we call commercial fortification. Iron can also be manufactured in concentrated form as a supplement. And also there are foods or plants which have been improved so that they contain high iron content. Their breeds have high iron contents compared to in their natural form. In the human body, iron is found in the hemoglobin, in the red blood cells. It is also found in the cells of the bone marrow, which we call erythroblasts. Iron is also found in the muscle cells, and it is also found in a transport compound called transferrin. And lastly, iron is found in storage proteins. There are a number of functions of iron in the body. One is DNA replication. Iron is involved in formation of new copies of the genetic material of an individual. Number two, iron is involved in the formation of red blood cells, which we know that red blood cells are important in the transport of oxygen to tissues in exchange or with the removal of carbon dioxide through the lungs. Iron also has an important role in the immune system. It performs an antagonistic role whereby it helps the immune system to fight foreign substances, harmful substances or harmful microorganisms that gets into the body and would otherwise cause diseases. That's why deficiency of iron is associated with increased risks or cases of infections. The fourth one is that iron is involved in muscle growth. I have already said that in the human body, iron is found in muscle cells. And lastly, iron is involved in mental development. And this is important for children under the age of 5 years. That is, iron helps in the formation of brain neurotransmitters which are involved in learning, in thinking, in children being able to express themselves, among others. These are some of the functions of iron among many others. Iron deficiency occurs when one does not take adequate iron to meet the body needs. Like in this, on this chart here, we have recommended dietary allowance for iron. Children who are 6 to 11 months require 11 milligrams of iron per day. Those 12 to 36 months require 7 milligrams of iron per day. Those 4 to 8 years require 10 milligrams per day. Those 9 to 13 years require 8 milligrams of iron per day. Those 14 to 17 years boys require 11 milligrams per day. And those 14 to 17 years girls require 15 milligrams per day. Adults, men over 18 years require 8.7 milligrams of iron per day. Women between 18 to 50 years require 14.8 milligrams of iron per day. And women over 50 years require 8.7 milligrams per day. This is according to Brown et al. 2012. And someone may wonder, how will I know that my child is getting this amount of iron that is recommended? Or how will I know I'm getting this amount of iron that is recommended? You do not have to worry. We are saying adequate intake of foods that are rich in iron daily ensures that one gets the recommended dietary allowance of iron for their age. We are going to see which foods are rich in iron. And if you just take those food adequately, in other words, for breakfast, have an item that is rich in iron. For lunch, have an item that is rich in iron. For supper, have an item that is rich in iron. When you do that daily, you can be sure that you are achieving the recommended dietary allowance for iron. So you don't have to worry that how will I measure to know I am getting the right amount. Just take foods that are rich in iron, and I will explain to you what examples of those foods are. Anemia, which is a condition that one gets when they are deficient in iron. The prevalence globally is for 3%. In West and Central Africa is 70%. In Kenya, for children under 5 years, it's 69%. And Uganda, for children under 5 years, it's 53%. This is according to these scientists. This shows that the prevalence of anemia is a global problem, and it is narrowing down to Africa, to developing countries, and even down to households. The groups at risk here are children under the age of 5 years, because we have said that they need it for iron. They need iron for mental development, and also they need iron for well functioning of the immune system. So they are at risk of anemia. Expectant mothers also, and ladies with active menstrual cycle. Those are ladies of between 18 to 50 years, and people with medical conditions such as those suffering from leukemia and kidney failure. These groups are at risk or are vulnerable to anemia. The laboratory diagnosis of anemia, according to American Society of Hematology, anemia simply refers to low red blood cell count, and it is diagnosed based on the hemoglobin levels as this. For men, if the hemoglobin level is below 13.5 grams per deciliter, they are said to be anemic. For women, if the hemoglobin level is below 12.0 grams per deciliter, they are said to be anemic. And for children, if the hemoglobin level, the children from infant to 6 years, if the hemoglobin level is below 11 grams per deciliter, they are said to be anemic. You do not need really to know this, but I'm just telling you so that you can able to understand how is one diagnosed to be anemic in a hospital setting. Some of the symptoms of anemia are shortness of breath, dizziness, pale or yellow skin, which we call jaundice, fast or irregular heartbeat, body weakness or fatigue, cold feet and hands. I know in an African setting, people do not really go to hospital until they feel they are sick, but it is important for you to know these symptoms. They are not entirely tied down to anemia only, but if you have this symptom, then it could be an alarm that you need a medical checkup so that we can ascertain whether it is anemia or not. If it's anemia, you will get the right treatment, and if it's another condition, you will equally get the right treatment. But even before you get to this symptom, the best remedy is just to get foods that are rich in iron. So what is the prevention or management of iron deficiency anemia? The first one, which is the interest of this discussion, is to take foods that are rich in iron. There are two sources of iron. There are plant sources of iron and animal sources of iron. The animal sources of iron include liver, beef, soup from bone of a cow or something, any animal source, or even fish or eggs. The iron in animal source is highly absorbed, and it is the best. The other source of iron is from plants, like vegetables, green leafy vegetables, from legumes like beans, peas, lentils, green grams, pigeon peas, and from fruits like beetroots and berries. The plant sources of iron are still good. However, their absorption is relatively lower compared to the animal sources of iron. But you do not have to worry. If you can get animal sources of iron, that is good. If you cannot get animal sources of iron, do not be worried. You can still get your iron from plants, but there is something we can do about it to improve its absorption. And what is that we can do? When we are talking of legumes, for example, if you want to cook beans or lentils or pigeon peas, make sure you soak for around 3 hours before the cooking time. When you soak, you dissolve those compounds that could otherwise prevent the iron in these beans or in these lentils from being absorbed. So when you soak for around 3 hours, remove from the soaking water and cook in another clean set of water. By doing that, you have removed the compounds that would prevent the absorption of iron. Another way that we can improve the absorption of iron is by taking foods that are rich in vitamin C. For example, oranges, guavas, lemons, and pineapple. The vitamin C in these foods helps in absorption of iron. So if you have taken your green grams or your beans, take a slice of orange or a slice of pineapple, maybe 5 minutes after taking the food that is rich in iron. That will help, this vitamin C will help the body to absorb this iron. Lastly, do not take tea or coffee together with foods that are rich in iron. For example, you are taking beans and you are sipping tea or you are sipping coffee. In tea, there is a compound called tannin. In coffee, there is caffeine. They bind to this iron, preventing the absorption of this iron. So what you do, first take your food that is rich in iron, have 1 hour break, then take your coffee or tea. Or take your tea or coffee first, have 1 hour break, then come and take your vegetable that is rich in iron, or your beans that are rich in iron, or your fruit that is rich in iron, just to prevent this compound in tea or in coffee from inhibiting the absorption of iron. Lastly, for people who are anemic already, do not do strenuous exercise, because we have said iron is involved in formation of red blood cells that carry oxygen. So if you are anemic and you engage in strenuous exercise, there will be inadequate supply of oxygen to tissues or to muscles, and you can run into a crisis. So what you need to do, take foods that are rich in iron. If they are plant sources, make sure you soak them for the legumes, and then also make sure you are taking foods that are rich in vitamin C to enhance absorption of iron. Do not take tea or coffee together with the foods that are rich in iron. And if you are anemic already, avoid strenuous exercise. That's all for now about iron deficiency anemia. You do not have to wait to be anemic for you to start seeking for treatment. Just follow the dietary approach that I have explained and you will be okay. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.